And we are live! Welcome to another episode of The Jaylee Show. Each week we sit down with business leaders across all of LinkedIn and talk about business, sales, marketing, and anything else that comes to mind. This week we have the awesome Sam Dunning. Sam runs Sam's Business Growth podcast show, and also has an awesome business. Sam, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Jay. Yeah, all good, thank you. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yep, still kicking and screaming. We're back in the office now, so things are starting to feel slightly more normal. So for the folks out there who don't already follow you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So Sam Dunning, co-own a company called WebChoice. Essentially, we help businesses and brands acquire more clients, grow their business online with services like SEO, web design and build, digital marketing. Also, like you say, I interview business leaders, so I run a little podcast called Sam's Business Growth Show. Where we essentially provide actionable tips on people to improve their sales, help grow their business, and utilize digital marketing to help them win, really.
And how have you found it over the last 3-4 months? Because, 6 months, I guess. I've seen an awful lot, and a lot of people here at GeoPro have come to us who suddenly want to go online, right? They want to go on the line, they want to get digital. It's been a big learning curve for a lot of people. So how have you found an upturn in people trying to go digital over the last few months?
Yeah, I mean, like I say to a lot of people I spoke to, we're in a fortunate industry. So being in digital, we're very, very lucky that we haven't had a massive hit and that we've still been able to, work from home, and the rest of our teams, that most of us work remotely anyway. So we're fortunate that we can just keep running and we can still service our clients without any downturn. Whereas we've had a lot of people, partners, clients that we work with, obviously in industries like hospitality, restaurants, whatever it may be, that have just had a massive hit and that they've had to scale things back. But we've been fortunate, to be fair. So we've been lucky.
And similar for ourselves as well. I found that good ideas that we had 2 years ago, 18 months ago now, we've had clients come back to us and be like, listen, I've had this good idea. And I'm, yeah. Sounds familiar. But it's really, really nice to see, tons of people have started podcasts, tons of people have started webinars, video shows, and just ways of connecting with their audience. And I guess what I'm hoping to see is that when the world does open up and the new normal is the old normal, that, some of these tactics are actually kept going on. So how do you help people, right? How do you help people expand that brand? What's the first conversations you're having? Someone's brand new, they've had a brick and mortar business and they're just trying to move to digital. What's the first thing that they have to look at?
It's a broad question, but yeah, I mean, it all depends. I mean, the first thing to understand is, I suppose, making sure they've actually got a market, making sure they've got a product that's worth selling. So hopefully they've already done that and they've established that their ideal customer profile, who they want to target.
That makes sense. Yeah, sure.
So hopefully on their side, they've done all this groundwork. But I mean, what do we do? Well, let's pretend it was a startup business.
Brilliant.
And they've got a brand new product they want to bring to market. Then the chances are they probably need a website so people can actually find them. So let's say, for example, they offered a software service where it's a monthly subscription. Or an online course, then they need that website would effectively need to convert. It needs to showcase their services, so it needs to give people a quick idea of what they can do. It would need to build trust, so it needs to give people or their ideal customers confidence that they're offering a legitimate service that's going to help them. We need to talk about kind of the problems that their product or service fixes, and most importantly, it would need to convert them from just being a visitor to taking action and either booking a demo or booking a quote or booking a consultation or whatever action that website wants them to do to either fuel the business owner or fuel their sales team with a steady flow of leads.
And I think that's something that a lot of people kind of forget about. They spend so much time doing the branding exercise. They don't necessarily make a funnel. They don't necessarily make a call to action. They've got a beautiful website which isn't saying contact me. Or isn't screaming contact me. There's nothing I hate worse than finding a product or service I want, and then after 20 clicks on the website, I still haven't managed to get a hold of someone and get my answer. So it's something I see a lot as well. People will spend thousands and thousands and thousands on a shop front, or getting the right, get the ideal location. And then they don't want to spend, a decent amount of money on web because, I've already just spent that money on a shop. And the thing that I try and, help people to explain is that you can only get so many people to walk past your shop, but you can times that number by 10 or 100 or a million when it comes to being online, especially if you're using, SEO in the right way.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so obviously helping people through that stage is super useful, and getting that information out of them really, really helpful for them. What are the challenges people have? Like, do you find people are able to articulate what they do well?
Not always. So that's why with anything, Jay, as you know, as a business owner, you've got to ask good questions. And often the problems people come to you with aren't the real problems that they actually want to fix or what they want to do. So as any business owner should, if someone comes to you with an inquiry, you've got to deep dive and kind of find out what their business model is,
Of course.
find out who their customer is, find out where they want to get to it. So if we're talking about websites, what the actual end goal of the website is, whether it's to point existing prospects to, whether it's like we mentioned just now to actually convert new leads, or whether it's something else, because every website, every business has got a different goal, right? So you need to find out what their end objective is, where they want to get with it. And like we were mentioning earlier, some of the biggest mistakes we've seen in the past is people spend thousands and thousands on an all singing, all dancing website, but then leave their marketing budget out. So there's no point in building an amazing world-class website if no one's going to ever find it.
Right.
So yeah, that's something to think about, especially if you're a startup. You need to set aside, you need a solid website that's going to do the job, but you also need a marketing budget that's going to actually drive your ideal customer to it.
It's such a good point. I've seen people do it so many times where they'll spend a huge amount of money on an event, or they'll spend a huge amount of money on a website. And that's great, but how are you getting bums on seats? How are you getting eyes on the website? Oh, it's like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they'll come. They definitely won't. Like, there's too many. Not only is there too many websites out there, but there is too many of your competitor. Whatever you do, there is 1,000 other people trying to do exactly the same thing, and you have to try and differentiate yourself in one way or another. And having a great website is a good start, at least when people find you. But how are you pushing it out there?
Yeah.
So what struggles do business owners have, right? If you're helping them for, not necessarily from scratch there, but if you are helping them, they've got that great website and they're trying to put themselves out there. Like, what struggles do people come up against?
All sorts. There's a list longer than my arm, but I mean, it could be that they might already be spending money on marketing, Jay, but their website's not effectively converting the visitors they do get into inquiries.
Gotcha.
It might be that they're perhaps looking at the wrong channels. So it might be that they're targeting B2B, so they're targeting businesses, but then they're advertising on platforms that are more consumer based,
right?
Whether that's Facebook or whether that's a different channel.
Gotcha.
So it might be they're actually advertising on the wrong channel. It might be that they're doing paid ads, for example, but they're looking at the wrong search terms, or they're not getting a good cost per click. So they're paying like £1,000 to acquire a customer when their product is only 500 quid. So they're making like a 2x loss. So all these kinds of issues, there's more, but that's just a quick example of.
There must be quite a lot of consultancy then that you have to do just to like even see the wood for the trees, even just begin to understand where people are.
Exactly. Like any software, technology, digital company, just like yourself, you've got to have a good discussion. You've got to have a hard discussion with a prospect. When someone comes to you with a potential project, you've got to really understand their business, understand what they're doing right now, understand if that's working for them, and if not, you need to understand kind of what needs to be fixed, where they want to get to, and if they've really got the motivation to change, because not everyone does.
No.
Sometimes people don't have budget, some people don't have timeline, sometimes people don't have decision-making power. So these are just questions that us as business owners or sales professionals should be asking. I'm sorry, I'm going into a bit of sales here because I'm a bit of a sales nerd as well as digital marketing nerd.
I'm a known lover of sales, and I think one of the problems with marketing as a whole is that it kind of sits, or lots of marketing will sit like alongside sales as opposed to like with sales. So never apologize talking to me about sales. I love it.
Cool. So yeah, just ask, like you say, just asking great questions to really understand what your customers or your potential clients doing right now in terms of their marketing, who their ideal customer is, where they want to get to with it, i.e. what do they want from their website? Do they want 5 leads a week? Do they want 20 leads a month? What is their end goal? What budget are they prepared to pump into it to make it happen? Is it realistic? And have they got the time frames? Have they got the resources their side to work with whoever the company may be to then coordinate weekly, monthly to make it happen? So all these questions have got to be asked to even determine if there is a fit to do business.
And something you mentioned there, I'm seeing more and more is decision makers. So I'm having more and more conversations now with people who are like really, they are the advocate within the business for digital. they get it. They tend to be, at oldest sort of mid-30s,
Sure.
40s. So, just as an average, I'm not saying that other people out there aren't going to do that. Just knocking my mic around for good measure. But what I'm starting to see is that as the average age of people who have grown up around social and know social through and through is starting to increase, actually what's happening is more and more people are coming back. But there's still that kind of disconnect between, as you say, decision makers maybe maybe understand more traditional marketing activities, and when you start saying, "Oh, we're going to make videos," they're originally pushing back and saying, "Like, oh, we don't want to be YouTube stars," and that's not for a second what we're suggesting.
No, that's it. It's just, like you say, asking good questions, understanding where they want to get with it, and all that good stuff.
Exactly. And it's something I've always said to my team as well. Like, if we're going to advertise on something, I want to know the exact end goal. And unfortunately, it's not always a conversation which comes up in every marketing campaign, but has to. Why? Like, why are we doing this? What are we trying to achieve? Do we want 5 more clients, or do we need 100 more clients? And as you were saying, if we're currently spending 1,000 to acquire a client when our average deal sale is 500, then we need to relook at everything that we're doing to try and flip that on its head and start getting there. So the podcast, you sat down with some awesome people so far. What made you think about starting a podcast?
It's a good question. One I don't have a great answer for, to be honest. I started it in January of this year. And I think just the end of last year, I got bored, to be honest. So I'd recently come back on with Web Choice as a sales rep, then eventually worked my way up to being a part owner. Anyway, I've always been interested in media. So I've always kind of like messing around. When I was younger, I actually wanted to be a radio presenter. So I guess just still had those vibes knocking around in my head. And because I'm a bit of a digital marketing geek, a bit of a sales nerd, I thought, why don't I just mix this all together, start a podcast, start interviewing people that are way, way smarter than me. So yeah, I've been lucky, really. I've had some great names like Alan Barrett from Grenade, and some other kind of leading sales professionals like Jeb Blunt and Mark Hunter and other guys, to name a few. But it's just been a fun experience, really, just to network with these guys, learn from them, share it with our audience. Gives me some content to put out on LinkedIn. I've learned a whole ton on sales, business, marketing from these guys, and yeah, network with them. Got some inquiries as well from other guys. So it's just, I encourage anyone that's kind of thinking about it to just get stuck in, get started, because you'll learn a lot. It gives you great content, helps you network with kind of some really cool people, and it's all positives, really.
And that's the thing we always talk to people about, is that podcasting or long form video conversations like this, same thing really, right? It's such an easy way to create great content.
Yeah.
Most of the problem that I have when I speak to a business owner is it's time. When would I find the time to create all this content? And actually the answer is that, you and I are going to spend a half hour, 40 minutes having a conversation. Out of the back of that, my team's going to walk away with 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of content that we're going to release over the next 5, 6, 7, 8 months. That, coupled with the fact that I do this show every other week, means that we've got content up until March at the moment, all scheduled and ready to rock and roll. And then it's quite easy to kind of top that up with some other content on top. I'm not spending 5 hours a week trying to create content. I'm spending an hour every other week, and I'm walking away with absolute bags of it. So the learning side of podcasting, because that's actually a lot of time when I talk to people about starting a show, obviously the main question is, where is the ROI? When am I going to be the next Joe Rogan? And the answer is in a decade. Just like Joe Rogan. Yeah, exactly. If you're lucky, then in 10 years' time, it might be close to that. But I personally think, and I've found the real ROI, apart from building your brand, creating content, and actually getting tangible bits and pieces out of it, the ROI I found is actually same model as yours, speaking to people smarter than me, can teach me something, about them. And I've learned so much from doing shows like this and listening to other people's shows that's actually the real benefit I've found. And I think it's that might be one of the reasons it's kind of hard for some decision makers to sign it off, because that's a very unquantifiable ROI. But I'm going to learn stuff, boss. Don't want to pay for that,
That's a whole point in itself, isn't it? Really, whether you're if you work for a company and not a business owner like we are, if you're management or if you're director or whoever it may be is going to give you sign off, in that case, I'd say get off your ass and just do it in your own time. And then maybe you can get buy-in once you've got the proof that it works. But like you said, there's a different route you can go down with the podcast, where you, rather than just interviewing maybe business owners or marketing leaders or whoever,
Just a couple of little problems jumping in and out to keep us on our toes. So, Sam, we were talking about the benefits of having a podcast. And one of the things I've literally seen in the past is people who don't care about their show at all, just because of the benefits of actually getting great guests and getting the chance to sit with them and talk with them, which can be literally a prospecting tool. So you said you spoke with Jeb Blupp. Awesome. Love his content. Just love it. I'm a huge fan. It's one of those. So what was it like speaking to him?
I was humbled, really. He's a sales legend. So as you know, he's written loads of awesome books on sales, best-selling books, and does sales training, has a sales-based business. So yeah, I was lucky, really. I mean, one of the things I've found is that when I first started a podcast, I thought kind of that all these people that are well-known, that have grown successful businesses and so on and so forth, I thought, that if I reach out to them, it's never going to work. They're never going to, they're going to ignore my email, they're going to ignore my LinkedIn message or whatever, however I reach out to them, never get back to me. But what I've learned is that once you start a podcast, the power of referrals is super strong. So once you have guests on your podcast, once you finish your recording or your live call, whatever you do with them, you just say, look, really enjoyed our chat. Let me know how I can help you. Also, based on the conversation we've had, is there anyone you'd recommend that I bring on? Or I notice you're connected to this guy or this girl. I'd love an introduction. So that's something I'd recommend anyone starting it, but which is a great way to get intros to people you want to do, get on your show. But back to your point, it was awesome. I mean, that was one of the early shows I did. I think it was like 20 or something like that. And he's got an awesome studio, man. I was so envious. Like, he's got all this baseball kit, all these awesome screens, all this sweet setup because he does all these sales training videos. So he's got a really awesome studio. And I was just pure podcast envy because I know I want a podcast studio like that in my garage. As long as when my fiance eventually lets me set up and spend about 10 grand on it, then we might be lucky in 10 years time. But no, it was just a great experience to learn from him. He had plenty of cool tips on sales and growing his business, and he's been there and done it. So that's what I like to do, learn from people that have done it.
And one of the things you touched on there, which I think is really, really, really cool, is that the content creation community, or anyone who is out there and that, you've seen who is doing really, really well, chances are is actually really open to a conversation about collaborating or doing some content or being part of it. There's been very, very few people who have, that we've reached out and contacted who have said like, nah, not my kind of thing. And even before we had a show, I was contacting people who were getting, huge amount of likes and comments on LinkedIn well before we had a show. And people were like, sure, sounds like fun. Podcast, huh? I'm in, kid. Because I think when you get to that stage, you understand that the old adage of all promotion is good promotion, right? It's okay to be on someone's show while they're looking at you with envious podcast eyes, because that's got out to a whole nother market that you'd never be able to get to on your own.
Exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right. If you start it, you'll be amazed at how many people say yes. Yeah, you might get the odd one, but I think I've probably asked about 80 or so plus people. I think only one person has said no, but that was purely because they were too busy at the time. Really? So we'll probably reschedule something in. So it's as long as your messaging is personalized and it's not terrible. So you've got to have a decent approach to actually reach out to people, not just come on my podcast, please. There's got to be a bit more to it. It's got to be personalized. So, for example, what I used to use is I used to see people on other people's podcasts and just say, look, hi X, hi John, I really enjoyed your podcast on, let's say, Will Barron's The Salesman podcast. Love the part where you talked about X, Y, and Z. Would love to bring you on mine to share your thoughts with our audience. Would you be open to discussing further? So something short, snappy, personalized, bang on the money.
And then boom, 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 and people accept. It really is. And it's what I really like about talking to you, Sam, is that you're approaching stuff with a sales mentality, which is what I've always done. Way back sort of 5 odd years ago when we first started, Tony and I, neither of us are business owners. We started a podcast purely as a hobby. And we were booking huge musical guests just by contacting them, like you say, contacting them, being really honest and being like, look, the show's called How to Write a Tune. We're musicians not of note. You're a musician of note, but we've both written things. So why don't you calm down? And let's have a conversation about writing music. And because that spoke really clearly to that audience, we got a lot of huge guests be like, sure, sounds like fun. I love talking about songwriting. I'll talk about that 1,000 times. And same thing with podcasting about, business growth. Great. We're on LinkedIn. There is an awful lot of people who are going to want to A, have that conversation, and B, listen to it and find out about it. Everyone's looking for that secret, right?
Exactly, man. Yeah, exactly.
So what do you prefer? Audio only, video as well?
I do it all, just like yourself. So I recently got LinkedIn Live access. Sorry. So yeah, now we tend to record the sessions as long as the guests are up for it. We'll record live, and then just like we mentioned earlier, then that way you've got all this content, so you can repurpose it for YouTube, or you can do small little bite-sized chunks for LinkedIn or other social platforms. Then of course we put the podcast out a couple of weeks later, typically on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the major channels. So like you say, it's just gives you all this content to put out, and then you can even do blog posts or LinkedIn posts. You've just got all this information you can then repurpose as you need, and you can also give it to the guest to help them promote it for you.
So sometimes, especially live, right, as we've seen today, when you get a few technical problems thrown at you.
Sure.
Do you find it harder to do live shows than pre-recorded?
I just kind of jumped straight into it, to be fair. I just literally applied. I think I applied twice. Was really lucky that I got granted access on the second time. Yeah. And then just a day before, I said to my first guest, right, we're recording live instead of Zoom. And he was like, yeah, sure. And then just messed around with it, really, and just kind of learned from it as we go on. Luckily, I don't produce it myself, so we've got a friend that helps me out with all that good stuff. So
perfect.
So we just cracked on, and it wasn't too much different. Yeah.
And I found the same thing as well. Like it's especially if you've been podcasting for a long time, and it's one of the benefits, right, of podcasting or video series or anything like that. You really learn how to loosen your tongue. You really learn how to have a conversation and be maybe entertaining. Who knows? But you know what I mean? You also learn how to shut up. And when you see someone about to talk, to be like, "Gah!" Or in a normal conversation, when you're down the pub, everyone's talking all over each other. Or if you're at barbecue and everyone's cutting over each other, you actually learn from podcasting when to, okay, now I need to make a listening noise, so that person knows that I'm actually having a conversation with them. But if I say too much, they're going to stop. And I think from doing podcasting for a while, beforehand, before doing anything live, you've actually built yourself the chops. It's got some of the skills you need to be able to go live and be like, it's just a conversation. I don't have to freak out too much. Yeah,
like you say, I was much the same, Jay. So on probably the first 10, 15, 20 episodes, I was pretty terrible. I was really nervous, especially with some of the guests. I thought, these are some really, really kind of serious business owners. They've done all these great, amazing things. We've got all these staff, got these massive teams. So I was almost quivering in my boots. And like some of the guys were really, really famous on LinkedIn. So yeah, as you'll see from my first recordings, I'm ahhing, pausing, having all these awkward silences, but it's good because it builds up your confidence and helps you with so many things. Like you say, the content is just one piece of the puzzle. So yeah, there's only bonuses, really.
And I've literally found, going into meetings and giving presentations and such, after 60, 70 conversations live, 60, 70 conversations like this on video, a room full of people isn't quite as daunting. It's strange that a tiny little piece of glass staring at you will freak me out 20 times as much as 20 people staring at me. Because at least you can stare down other people and look them in the eye, and at some point they'll look away. For that damn camera, it never looks away. It's always just staring at you right in the eye. So true. So up and above a podcasting, what other content do you try and create? And I say that because I absolutely love the Tuesday Teardown. I thought that was awesome. I really, really like that a lot. So what other types of content are you trying to create?
Whatever comes to my mind, in all seriousness. So, I mean, at the moment, on Tuesday Teardown, something I've just started, where I basically ask people to submit their website link, and then I'll do a full review, like a 2-minute audit of their website, of what's great, what could be improved, and what could help them reach their desired goals, whether that's to drive more leads, drive more sales if they're e-commerce, or perhaps something else if they're a different type of business.
Sure.
On usually Thursdays, me and my friend Russ, we do something called Demystifying Digital.
Okay.
So that was basically, we got annoyed with loads of marketing and digital marketing companies just making all kind of websites, online marketing in these worlds just sound like a dark art.
Yeah.
Sure. Just basically saying, SEO. And when customers ask you about SEO, just saying, it's really technical. There's all this X, Y, and Z that's like really hard to understand, and just basically using jargon to confuse you into buying. So we got really annoyed with that. So we basically took digital marketing terms, whether it's SEO, PPC, CRO, which is conversion rate optimization, all these different what sound like jargon-based terms, and simplifying them so easy that your nan could understand them. Yeah. So we made that into a weekly video series. Amazing. Otherwise, how do I think of content? If I'm out and about, if I'm at the gym, or if I'm walking and something comes into my head, a story, I'll put it down on my iPhone on notes, and then just work that into a LinkedIn post. that's how I come up with quite a lot of my ideas.
I love the idea of demystifying digital, because the problem is with digital is it's brand spanking new, and some of the acronyms have just been made up. Right? And some are being used all over the shop, but they have just been made up. It's not IT where that acronym has been around for 25 years and is older than the person using it. It's literally 10 years ago, this wasn't even a thing. Was CRO a thing at all 10 years ago? Probably not. Maybe it was, but it was very, very different in how its application is.
Exactly.
And I think it's kind of actually a problem with the entirety of the digital marketing industry is that a lot of people want to keep it mystified. They want to keep it a little bit too complex. And I think some of that comes down to the fact that none of us really know what we're doing because it is new. We have some good ideas. We have some tried and tested things that we've worked on, but as it changes so often, it's just new, right? Every week we're like, so LinkedIn does that now. Okie dokie. And you have to change everything you're doing because of it. And it's a real reactive kind of way of working. So I think that's a great idea especially the language you put there, so your nan can understand it. Because how many nans are running business, or people nan age are running businesses? Why should they be left out of this new incredible tool to kind of bring in business?
True, man.
So you said, obviously, you started working at the place you're working at, and then have worked yourself up to being a co-founder or co-director. That sounds like an awesome story. How did that happen?
It's a long story, actually. I've actually come and gone from this place probably 5 or 6 times.
Wow.
The reason being, my cousin's one of the owners now, and then there's another owner as well. Without boring the audience too much, there's a bit of a funny story. So I used to work, which I've told on a few podcasts, but I'll give you the short version of it. Sure. When I was probably about 18, I worked at a retail store called Jessop's, selling cameras, so to the general public, which I soon realized I absolutely hated because I don't really I prefer inside sales. So I like selling over the phone. I like dealing with people over video calls, and I don't mind face-to-face now, but back then I was just a nervous kid.
Well, and B2C, right? And that's always
and straight to consumer.
Is if you're trying to sell someone a camera and it's £2,000, that's rent. That's someone's rent. The thing I love about B2B, and I was talking about it with our new salesperson this morning, is it's such a pleasure to talk to someone when it's not their money. And not that people are more frivolous with the money, but there is no point where they're like, nah, can't really eat if I give you this cash,
Yeah, I mean, annoyingly, sometimes that happens in business as well.
True.
But then I suppose it's on us to build the value and build the buying case and kind of talk about the results. But yeah, you're exactly right. With consumer goods, it can be tough. It can be tough.
So you're selling in Jessop's and hating that desperately.
Yeah, so basically I hated it and had a harsh manager and all sorts. And my cousin Tom at the time came to me and said, look, there's this job going, company selling websites and online marketing. I was like, cool. Went for an interview the next day, got the job, left this camera shop. And my first ever sales call basically had someone that wanted this massive website, which funny enough was like LinkedIn. So it was their own version of LinkedIn. So a huge social media platform.
Wow.
So didn't really know how to do a sales call, but I was just saying kind of, how do you want this website to work? What does it need to do? Sure. Making it up as I went along. And I think they said they had about 500 quid or maybe even £1,000 to spend on this huge platform that was like LinkedIn. Bear in mind, this is probably 6 months, a year's worth of development at least.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
At least. For probably about 20 developers, probably more. And obviously me not having a clue at the time, I just, to every question he said, I thought, what's the best thing I could do? I'll just say, yes, we can do it. So Sam, can you do this? Yes.
Hell yeah,
Sam, can we have it in 2 months? Yeah, of course you can. You have 3. He just went through it, like at the end of the
why wait for 2 months? Why don't we deliver it in a month?
Or tomorrow. So basically just yes-manned it. If you've ever seen the film, literally just yes-manned every question, got the deal done, got it paid. And yeah, as you can imagine, there's quite a few issues with that. Thank God the client was understandable, and he kind of looked that I messed up, and we kind of eased it out with a couple other websites for him and sorted them out in the long term. But that was first ever call, first ever sell. But don't follow in my footsteps. And but no, to go back to your point, I've done a few other things in between. Kind of worked telemarketing sales, worked for a marketing agency, then eventually kind of realised I love digital marketing. I love helping businesses grow. So that was my passion, and yeah, came back and bolted on as an owner after some time.
But that's amazing that you know, to go out to learn a little bit more, to come back to go out and learn a little bit more, and ultimately use all that experience to come back to somewhere that you started way back when, and be like, actually, I can really bring value now. Whereas beforehand, I was like, yeah, have 2 websites. Now you know where you are, and using that outside information. Like I always say, nothing. Like zero, anything I did in my career actually gave me any experience to be a managing director. It didn't. I was a salesperson. I specifically didn't work with other people. I wasn't great working with the team. I was awesome on my own. I didn't care about the project after it being sold because I was on to the next thing. And then being a managing director, I absolutely had to care about the team and had to work well with others and had to really care about the project all the way through. But thankfully, you know, there's enough there that you've got the building blocks to then move on to the next stages and such. So was it your idea to have this podcast as part of the business?
Yeah, I mean, originally I didn't even know if I was going to do it as part of the business. At the moment, we don't really push the company too hard on the podcast itself. No. It's just the kind of thing. And like I was saying, sometimes I've had conversations with these business owners or these marketing leaders or sales leaders, whoever it is I've brought on as a guest. We've done the show, and afterwards, just because they've kind of seen that I'm with WebChoice, I've talked about digital marketing. They've said, look, we've actually got this project coming up. Would you mind discussing it? So which is why I encourage anyone to do a podcast, because you're networking with the people that you're interviewing, especially if you're interviewing your ideal customer. They might not give you something straight away, but if you then carry on the conversation, keep in touch with them via calls, via emails, connect with them on LinkedIn, they're seeing your content, you're going to build that trust with them. So when something does come up, you're the one that they think, yeah, this person's a noteworthy person. I trust them. I think they can do a great job, and they'll reach out to you then. So that's why it's pretty powerful.
Now, obviously, podcasting is quite a commitment. It really is a commitment. But I think way back when, at the beginning of the call, one of the things you were saying is just hit record, right? Just get going, get started, and see where you get. And I think more businesses need to jump onto that bandwagon, because you know, podcasting might not be the thing for you. It takes commitment. It's something which you have to do kind of regularly and for a long period of time. The benefits are, you know, we've been singing its praises all the way through the show.
Sure.
However, there are other ways of doing that. Something like your Tuesday Teardown that I was looking at. I know it's brand new, but it's only a few minutes long, right? 5-6 minutes long of you going through something. That's as much value as I can add into that. I don't want to stay for any longer.
I mean, on that point, I'd say work out what you're comfortable with, Jay. So you're exactly on the money there. So you might not be comfortable interviewing other people. So in that case, if you prefer doing something yourself, then maybe do something that your specialism is. So let's move away from digital marketing. Let's say you're a personal trainer or you help people lose weight. You could do a short, snappy video on, I don't know, ways, nutrition, workout exercises at home, like a 2-minute or 20-minute workout you can do in your front room. And you can just do that in a short 2-minute video. So working out stuff you're comfortable with, that you can actually feel happy with to do on a consistent basis, that's going to give your audience value. So it doesn't have to be a podcast. It could be in another format. It could be a video. It could be creating content for LinkedIn posts, which are a similar thing, giving tips, giving advice, giving stories, whatever it may be. Work out what works for you. But the key is to do it consistently. And
I think what you said there is it's such a conundrum, right? Because it's so easy for me to say what a PT, what a personal trainer, you could do this, this, and this, and it's because the job's really, you know, so niche. You know, it'd be really easy to them to come up with some content to say, as we've just said there, nutrition or workouts, home workouts, or whatever their niche is, whatever their USP is. Funny enough, I don't see business owners being able to say the same thing. Even though day in, day out, they are selling one thing and they know all the benefits of it, it's not as easy for them to sit down and be like, here's my message. Here's why I love this thing. And I don't know whether it's because it's too complex or people just get lost in their messaging.
Yeah, I mean, that's a different conversation. I mean, for me, I wouldn't be able to sell something, especially now at this age, if I wasn't passionate about it, if I didn't actually feel that I was giving value to the people I'm selling to. Otherwise, I wouldn't have longevity. So I encourage anyone that's going to do a profession for a long time to actually have some passion about what they're offering, otherwise go into something that you care a bit more about. That's my own opinion. But back to your point, I mean, if you can't necessarily think of content yourself, then one great way we found is when you're having conversation with your clients or prospective clients, use the questions that they ask you as content. So if they're saying,
that's killer. That's killer.
If they're saying, how do we do X? That's a content. That's a piece of written content, video content, wherever it may be. Basically, you're using common FAQs, frequently asked questions for your clients, as copy, video copy, audio copy, whatever it may be. So if they're saying, how do we do X, or how do we implement X, or what's the easiest way to do this, what's the fastest way to do this, why does this work, how do we get from Y to X to Y, that's a really, really good way to come up with that content ideas.
See, I love it. And this is why, I mean, I'm working on some content at the moment, which is why people should fire their sales directors if they're not using social, because that's who you want. Like, you're saying there, who can give you the FAQs, who can give you the frequently asked questions. Not enough marketing teams go and talk to their salespeople. They're on the front line. They're talking to people all day long. They've got nothing but like objections, and people want this and people want that. And yet marketing is sit across the room or in the next room trying to make it up themselves. Like, that is the messaging you're looking for.
Some of my best LinkedIn posts, sorry to steal it, Jay, have been about real phone conversations that I've had.
Oh, really?
So funny ones where people kind of talk to me about their services. I'm asking questions around what they do, who their ideal customer is. I'm asking like an idea of their average order value. And like, I've had consultants that have told me they're selling products for like 10, 20K. And then I ask them what they're going to invest in the website, bearing in mind they want the website to actually generate leads, and they're like 500 quid. And I'm like, I'm confused. You're saying you want to generate clients for this amount. Why are you only looking to invest this? And that was a LinkedIn post. Got like a ton of traction. I think I got a couple of leads from it.
Love it. Well, and
people resonate with it.
And the problem is, and this is why I can never work out why sales isn't more involved with the marketing, like content. I'm not saying that every salesperson should be out there on video and doing the whole spiel, but spoilers, they're used to it. They talk to people all the time. But the very least you could do is talk to the sales team about those things they're having, because anecdotally it's going to be so much more interesting than sitting there and being like, we're really cool because we sell product X, and product X is awesome because it does this. Like, no one cares. I'd much prefer to hear. The other day I was talking to Billy, and Billy said, like that, that's much more engaging for me. And it's how people like pass information on. I'd never ask my friend, hey, what phone's that? This is the iPhone 11. The iPhone 11 now has this, and this, and this. No, they're going to be, oh, mate, it's sick. You've got to check out the camera, right? And that's what I want to hear. That's the referral I want to hear, right?
Yeah, I think it's also, to that point, making it relatable. So, for example, the story I used where there was a prospect that didn't have budget, people were like, well, we get that all the time in my business. I can relate to that so much, because that's pretty much 90% of the sales calls. Well, maybe not 90%, I've over-exaggerated that.
Yeah, but, maybe not at the
moment. It's just that kind of thing, really. Just using the actions we're doing already to create content, rather than just creating content for content's sake.
So look, we try and keep these under, although we had a short break in the middle, an intermission for popcorn and snacks. We try and keep these shows under half an hour, just so people can get back to their work. And it's specifically for LinkedIn. So if people want to go out there and find you, Sam, where can they find you? Where should they go?
Sure. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn. So Sam Dunning on LinkedIn. Check out the podcast where we basically talk about how you can grow your business, sales, and utilize digital marketing with business leaders. That's Sam's Business Growth Show. Or if you are tired of hunting for new business, tired of hunting for clients, check out WebChoice, and we can help you convert more leads via your website, or we can help you get found by your ideal customers. I'd love to have a conversation with you. And I'm going to be a bit broad and give out my number. My number is 07834 766 004. So feel free to call me if you've got a question on digital.
Love that. Now that, ladies and germs, that is how you market yourself. You want people to get in touch, you tell them all the places to get a hold of you. Sam, it's been awesome talking to you. I don't think there's many people in the digital marketing world who think of sales as much as you and I do. And it's really, really refreshing to talk to you. I'll catch up with you after the show, but thank you so much for being part of it.
Thanks very much, Jay. Really appreciate you having me on, dude.